Hello, ladies and jelly spoons. Welcome to 24K Movies, TV shows, video games, and reviews. Um, it's been like 2 months since we made a review. We were sick, we had a lot going on, and we weren't able to make the reviews, but we never stopped watching. So the floodgates are open when the last days of 2024 are being eclipsed. And we are going to do some movie reviews, some TV shows, and some video game reviews. First up, something I just watched last night. You know, okay, so the name of the movie is Werewolves. The premise is absolutely intriguing. The idea, absolutely wonderful. The execution, not so much. In fact, I'm going to say I feel sad that this is one of the last movies I've watched of 2024. I'll go so far as to say, what the hell did I just watch? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I don't think this movie knew what it was. There were certain parts of this movie that were rated G, rated R, PG-13. There were some Mortal Kombat fatalities. There was a obvious reference to Michael Myers coming down from the ceiling. There was so much to absorb, wrapped up in a ball of insufferable characters with horrible decision making, even worse acting abilities. And Gary Grillo, he should never be your number one choice. Not for a movie like this. If you were talking about an action-packed martial arts movie, yes. Werewolf movie, you could have threw a rock and hit anybody else. I'm going to break this down so that you understand where I'm coming from with this movie. I went into it totally void of people's opinions, people's ideas, and I just wanted to have a good time with a werewolf movie because werewolves in modern cinema have become big dogs. That's all they are. Underworld being the exception. Dog soldiers. There's been some subsequent werewolf movies that's coming out that have come out that have defined the genre and done justice and a service to horror and the werewolf genre. Having said that, I don't know what I would classify this as. You're looking at the box art, yet the werewolves look nothing like that. They look nothing like that. I'm probably going to show you maybe one or two. But I tell you what, we're going to visit the trailer so you can see what we're talking about. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to unpack this for you. Because everything that happened in this movie is what's wrong with modern cinema. Every single last thing that happened in this movie is what's wrong with modern cinema. There were moments of gleaming light in the beginning of this movie where I was like, it's The Purge meets a werewolf apocalypse. How could you possibly mess that up? And by their own rationale, over 1 billion people turned into a werewolf last supermoon, so we're preparing for this one. That's the movie I'd like to see, the original one. Because this one, no. I'd like to see the first one. I'd like to see, little Katie and Alex and Maggie and Paul, out at Sal's Pizzeria. And Sal goes to get a slice from the counter and he comes back and wolfs out and tears apart Maggie and Sam and Sal behind the counter, and just eats their head. And then he goes outside and then there's billions of werewolves everywhere just ripping people to shreds, and McDonald's workers attacking their bosses and Walmart workers attacking customers and their managers and TLs. Like, that's the movie that this should have been. But it's not. We get to hear about the better movie in the worst iteration. To be fair, the premise, intriguing, amazing, insightful, refreshing. The execution, you should have had a better writer, better director, and I understand they were working with a little bit of money, but honestly, I've seen better episodes of Supernatural. I've seen better horror episodes of Angel, better horror episodes of Teen Wolf that included werewolf scenes that were frightening to a point. And they threw gore in here to try to say, hey, this is a werewolf movie. But on the same token, there was so much PG in it and so much wokeness that it should have been called Woke Wolves. Woke Wolves, the Apocalypse. Because, well, before I get into that, let's go visit the trailer so that you can see how you were baited into this movie, and then I'll unpack it for you. Sound nice? Okay, let's check out the trailer, and then we'll come back.
Lightning!
Mom?
Uncle Wes, why can't you stay?
They need me to help them try and stop this. We're the only family we have left.
We got this.
Cody! What are you doing, man? You should kill somebody.
We are all soldiers now.
Tonight, when that sun sets, it's gonna be every man for himself.
We have a 9-hour window to test and report our findings. We hope to see if this mutation can be blocked.
Let's go over the rules.
Don't open the door for anyone.
Don't hesitate for a second. Hoorah! Hoorah! Hoorah!
Good luck tonight.
Canopy retraction commencing.
No more guns, no more guards. Those things are coming for us.
I'm here.
Hey! Lightning!
Yeah, I know what you're saying. From that trailer. Seems pretty rad, right? What could go wrong? I've never done a movie review like this, but spoiler review. There are going to be spoilers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Believe me, you don't care. There's going to be spoilers because I need to take you through my thought process, because there were so many times at which you gotta understand something. If you spend $80 on movie tickets, another $122.50 on a Will Rogers combo, you know, a small soda, some popcorn, which they don't like to refill, and a hot dog, you know what I'm saying? You $200 out of pocket because you want to go and see this beautiful movie, you know, and this is what you're given. I'd be pissed. Honestly, I'd be pissed. The movie I hear is streaming now. It should have been directly to stream. This should have not been released in theaters. Let's unpack it for you, because the movie started out nice and intriguing. Oh, by the way, you may have recognized some people in that trailer. Lou Diamond Phillips, yeah, he's in for a hot second, and then he turns into a werewolf, and you never see him again. He doesn't turn back. There's no word at the end. There's no Lou Diamond werewolf moments. No, not there. The woman, the main woman that you saw with Frank Grillo, you may have seen her in Spartacus. Yeah, seen lots of nudity from her. Definitely know she's a capable actress. There's a scene where they're being attacked by werewolves. See, here's the problem I have with CG and not practical. If you have a practical werewolf, then that means the people on set are reacting to an actual animatronic or a person in a suit. They're reacting to something really there. So their emotions, their responses, their reactions, they're much more genuine because they're reacting to an actual item. In this movie, I can tell that there were so much CG because the action and the reactions and the actors and actresses in the scenes, what the fuck? Like, to give you an example, that scene that I'm talking about where the girl from Spartacus is in it. First of all, I gotta do this. Hold on one second. Pause. Okay, before I go into anything else, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The gunplay. We've established the first year that the supermoon happened, bullets didn't do dog shit. So guess what, guys? This time, what'd you guys get, silver rounds? No. Silver and garlic and UV rounds, you know, like Underworld? No. We got regular bullets. And guess what? They don't do nothing here either. But our main actor, Frank Grillo, and our main actress from Spartacus, from the moment they suit up in the facility, they have guns. Guns that they don't mind pulling out. And every time they pull them out, they do nothing with the guns. Now you may say to yourself, you're being nitpicky. Yeah, I could be. But I counted 12 scenes. 12. Spaced minutes apart from each other. Where something is happening, they pull out the guns. First of all, let's talk about the finger thing. We know why they do this, because in the movie industry, you know, with everything that happened with the whole Alec Baldwin thing, you know, you don't want the pew-pew to be pew-pewed, you know, in real life. I get it. I understand. And if the camera's not so close that you notice it, you wouldn't notice it. But the camera is right there, and you can see there's a werewolf in front of him, and they're just like, that's where the finger should be. Not there. It's a werewolf. You ain't gonna get a second shot. You ain't gonna get a second chance. Chances are, if there's a billion of them, while you're going like this, there's one behind you, ready to tear your ass out like taco meat. So this should be this, but we understand why. But I digress. So they make it in 1 second, and here's the thing. Maybe there's a cut of this movie, a director's cut that hasn't come out yet, in which case I'll hold off because I will definitely review the director's cut too. But there's a scene where they're in the hallway, and from the moment that I saw her husband was one of the people going into the cages because he was going to change, I was like, she's either going to let him out or do something stupid. So they're in the hallway. The werewolves are tearing everybody up like taco meat because, you know, they had a year or more than a year to prepare for a werewolf apocalypse, and they chose wood and thin wiring, and, you know, they didn't choose cells to have these guys wolf out in. You know, they chose like the smallest, skinniest wired cages they can think of, and then there was no backup. You know, there wasn't like open slots in the floor like Aliens where they could jump in and pull a slat over top of themselves and be safe until, you know, daylight, because they're in the room with werewolves studying them, you know. None of that was even thought of. These are the smartest people in the world. None of them even thought of that. But it was like, oh, no, we're going to make some moon screen. So we put the moon screen on you, and the moon screen will protect you from the moon. I'm not joking. That's the actual premise. They put moon screen on people. You know, like Blade Frost put, like Frost put like sunscreen on him and he was walking around in the daylight. The moon. Oh, and by the way, you don't change unless you look at the moon. So if you're outside and you got like a hoodie over your head or a tarp, you don't change. You only change when you look at the moon. It doesn't matter the moon is out. It doesn't matter that, it's influencing everything, whether you look at it or not, You just have to look at it in order to change. They could have created contact lenses. They could have created sunglasses. They could have created a dome over the city.
No, but they cover them up with blankets, and that's totally okay. You're not going to change.
Like I said, this movie gets frustrating. But back to where I was. There is a scene, and hold on, because I will show you. Just hold on 1 second. So as the movie starts off, we're introduced to Frank Grillo, who looks like he hasn't slept in probably 15 days, and I don't know if he knew he was even making this movie, because there's certain scenes where the camera's so close up on his face and he doesn't even look like he knows what movie he's in. But we're introduced to the characters. We're introduced to Frank, which I clearly from the beginning would have preferred Mike Fahey. I would have preferred anybody, but Ian Ziering from Sharknado. I would have preferred anybody but him. He's great in martial arts movies. He's great in action movies. Not so much in this movie. Like, I hated him. I hated his eyebrows. I hated his hair. I hated his nose. I hated his chin hair. I hated his tank top. I hated the sound of his voice. I hated his reactions. I hated how he talked. I hated how he reacted. I hated the fact that every 5 seconds... Hold on 1 second. Every 5 seconds, the camera was... It was in his face, and he just had to say some things, because he's the star of the movie, and he's Frank, and he's all that is Frank, and he had to be frank with the camera, and frank with the actress, and frank with the werewolves, and he had to be Frank Rising, because every minute he had to let you guys know he's Frank. See how that becomes pretty annoying? That happens a lot. There is a scene to which him and one of the main actresses, well, I thought was a main actress, but they took her out like she meant nothing, like Lou Diamond Phillips, where they're under a car and he's breathing. And then the camera switches to her. And I'm like, all right, you can cut. We get it. And then there's a werewolf standing right next to them who bends down and smells the floor. And I want to remind you, wolves have a scent tracker ability for miles. If you were miles away, they could pick up your scent and follow you. But this wolf, this pack of wolves, is standing not right next to them. His face is down at the bottom of the car where they're both hiding. And he doesn't smell them. He walks away. This wolf with amazing hearing, wolves with amazing hearing, amazing smell, just walks away. And I'm like, okay, that was probably a good dramatic scene if you didn't spend 5 minutes of them just looking back and forth in each other's face under the car. Like, that scene was way too long. It didn't have to be that long. What was the point of that? It's things like that that they focus on in here that become annoying as the movie goes along. And you yourselves said over 1 billion people turned into werewolves. I counted 15 werewolves in this movie. 15. And you said everybody under the moon, it was a global thing. Everybody under the moon, supermoon, changed. So why were there only 4 scenes in this movie where they showed locations? The facility, the street, some weird back alley restaurant dive thing. I don't know what that was even for. where the tunnels were, and then the house that he started off in the beginning that you see him standing in front of. It was only those 4 environments. They didn't cut away and show Tokyo being torn apart by werewolves. They didn't show, Zimbabwe, Russia, Kafastafadak. They didn't cut away and show the sheer volume of this moon turning everybody into werewolves. And they even speak about it. Did you hear what's happening in Japan? Did you hear what's happening overseas? No. You could have shown us. You could have given us a clip. You could have done anything. It's almost like Mortal Kombat 2, the movie, how they talk about Rain, how they talk about Cabal, and how they talk about other Mortal Kombat characters, but they never show them. This is your time to shine in your movie. What is the point of holding back? You're doing a werewolf movie in a genre where you want to bring people back in because werewolves in today's date has become gigantic, just dogs, big dogs. You have a chance where you want to do the beast form of a werewolf. Why are you holding back? I don't know, and I don't care. We're also introduced to this guy. This guy is his neighbor. And if you're looking, saying, hey, he has a trashy backyard and he's shooting a gun in direction of Frank Grillo at his house. Yeah, come here. It's because he's the asshole of the movie. And they wanted you guys to know that. Because there has to be an asshole character in every movie. There were several in this movie, but they wanted to show from the door so you can identify him. He's shooting in the backyard. He literally has 3 other directions he could have set up targets and shoot, but he put it right next to where Frank is on his roof in clear view as he's shooting targets. Make it make sense. So we're introduced to him. And from the moment I saw him, I was just like, yeah, I hope he dies. We're not that lucky. Because he turns into a werewolf. And for some reason, the paint he put on his face and the vest he wore was just big enough, in human form, to be stretched out and be worn by, a 12-foot werewolf with 3 Arnold Schwarzenegger bodies stuffed together. Those vests are made to stretch like that. But yeah, we're introduced to him, which immediately I didn't like. It's not just the character, it's how they pulled him in. Like, if he was just somebody who was in the military, he's an ex-military guy, he's got a chip on his shoulder. It's called great writing. It's called developing a character, which is why you really shouldn't have done the second supermoon. You should have done the first supermoon, as opposed to telling us about a better story in your second story. But, movies got a movie show. So let's move on to the next character. We're introduced to this girl. And I know what you're saying, Rain. Be polite. Be cordial. I want to be. I really want to be. But to be quite honest, she started out as a character that I was like, okay, she's the Newt character from Aliens. She's the little girl who needs protection. She's going to be running and hiding. She may have some badass moments, because we just saw Salem's Lot, where the little boy had a badass part. The little kid did a lot of fighting. Matter of fact, he had more vampire kills than anybody else in the movie, including the main antagonist. So I thought maybe that's what we're going with her. Where did you think they were going to go with her? How about the most annoying, back and forth, indecisive character you can think of? They literally give her common sense when the moment suits and then takes it away when the moment does not. And there are a few times where in the beginning of the movie he tells them these things go off of sound, so stay in the house, keep the doors locked and closed, don't let anybody in, don't second guess under any circumstance, and don't make any noise. There are random moments where she literally screams, not out for her mother like, scream, help, come help me. No, there's little moments where she's cheering her mom on, yelling at the top of her lungs in the living room on the couch. Not hidden away in a floorboard, hidden away in a closet or a still room that you would have created because, it's a werewolf apocalypse. It's not zombies. I don't know why you boarded your house up with wood. They're werewolves. They're not zombies. They're werewolves. Werewolves have superhuman strength. They can jump. So even the fact, let's say if you boarded up your house, unless your entire house is steel, they're going to break through the roof. They're going to break through the walls. They're going to break through the floorboards. We've all seen werewolf movies before, real ones. So there's no way to safeguard this house. There is a way to build maybe a panic room, build maybe a steel bunker, build something, because they had an entire year to do this. But yet and still, no one did it. Not even in the house. Wooden boards and security cameras and one shotgun with one box of shells will do. Now, anybody who's ever played Resident Evil, raise your hand. When is the last time a box of shells have saved your life from 3 zombies? Let alone 1 billion werewolves. We're not talking about dozens. We're talking about 1 billion werewolves. Everybody who's exposed to the supermoon turns into a werewolf. Couple boards, 1 box of shells, 1 shotgun. A little girl in a tent, a mom with Christmas lights. Let's talk about the mom, shall we? So before we get to the mom, let's talk about the next door neighbor, little Cindy Lou who is no more than 2, who brought over some cookies, before the werewolf apocalypse. She's not under a mountain somewhere in a bunker, because this is the problem I have. This is the problem I have with movies like this, and including the Purge. You know when it's going down. You have ample time to plan when it's going down. You know when it's happening. And just hours before it happens, you're walking around your neighborhood in this movie giving out cookies. You're not securing yourself. You're not somewhere away, tucked away, shielded in by yourself, because if you're with you and your mom, and the moon hits, then you both guys gonna tear each other apart. Which does happen. That actually happens to this girl. She's walking around making popcorn while her windows are open, like it's another Saturday night, like, everybody's just cool, and she's going to put on some TV and, watch Gilmore Girls and see what's going on with Lorelai and Rory. And then she takes her popcorn and she's just like, let me go check on mom. Mom. And I'm like, mom is getting ready to eat your ass like taco meat. I saw it coming a mile away. It's a werewolf apocalypse. 1 billion werewolves. And your prep work for this was to make popcorn, sit down on a couch in an unprotected house, and watch Gilmore Girls? I wanted her gone very quickly. Once again, like I said, from the start, none of these characters I wanted to root for. I was rooting against them. I was just like, oh, please, this person's got to go. And I was kind of glad when it did happen. The funny part is the people I wanted to live, the people I expected to live, like Lou Diamond Phillips, such a short part. I think he was just the bait and switch to bring people into this movie. The woman from Spartacus, I think she was just the bait and switch. There's a woman in here who looks like Cordelia Chase, Charisma Carpenter, looks almost exactly like her. I'm like, okay, cool. Bait and switch. She's gone. They're only in that one scene, and then you don't see them anymore. It's over. They're gone. And a girl from Spartacus, like I was saying before, there is a scene where they're on the street and they're fighting, 6 werewolves. Can you hear me? 6 werewolves in a 1 billion person werewolf apocalypse. 6. Okay, we clearly need to work on our numbers. You could have CG'd a scene of showing a nation of them just coming across the horizon, to get it across, the depth and scope of how much danger we're in. But, 6, I think we can handle 6, you know what I'm saying? I think we can handle 6. But anyway, I digress. She's fighting for her life. He makes it to a gun. And for some reason, these werewolves, they know the script. Yeah, these werewolves know the script. You see, if you're a main character, when they jump out, they don't slash you and rip your head off and splash, splash, cutting up a hole in your ass. No, they don't do that. They just throw you against the wall, softly. Not enough to kill you, not enough to break you apart. Even though they have enough strength to punch through a brick wall, they use controlled strength to throw these people around. You know, not to hurt them, just to get the point across. Rah, rah, snarl, snarl, I'm a werewolf, you know, but I read the script, I can't kill ya. So, she makes it up to a werewolf, and she screams at him, and he looks at her, and I'm like, oh, please, just rip her to shreds. That's what would happen. No, he doesn't. He growls back. By the way, he has a pink mohawk. They never explain why he has a pink mohawk. When a werewolf changes from a person into a werewolf, I'm pretty sure they're all werewolves. They don't keep pink hair. They don't keep the earrings in their ear. They don't, you know, because that comes up later in the movie where somebody shows up with earrings and a jacket, and it just became, they look like Bebop from the Ninja Turtles. At one point, I was just like, less is more. And you should have gone with less. Like, you revealed way too much of these creatures and showed too much, because some of the times I was like, these things aren't scary. Like, if you'd have just shown eyes in the darkness, shreds and blood, like, you less is more sometimes. Like, and you've had what? Let's see. Lon Chaney as the Wolfman. Let's see, you have what? 60s, 50s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2020s. You've had a very long time to learn from werewolves and werewolf movies. What works, what doesn't work, what's stupid and what's not. So what the hell is the deal? Why haven't you used any of that knowledge in this movie? You clearly had an intriguing premise. You had an amazing thought. But execution, say it with me, not so much. So as she yells at the werewolf and the werewolf does nothing to her, she distracts him, and the guy has the gun. And like I was saying before, and I got off topic, every 5 minutes, him and her get into a situation where they pull out the guns. And they got their finger over it. You know, not the trigger, the finger on the outside. Safe mode. You know, they don't want to accidentally kill a werewolf. I mean, you don't want to accidentally kill a werewolf when there's a billion of them murdering everybody in a town. Anyway, they pull out their guns and oh man, that was scary. That was intense. We could have died. Anyway, next scene. All right, so we're in a convenience store. What was that? Oh, thank God. It happens so many times that they pull out their guns and don't use them. I'm like, why do you even have them? Throw them on the ground. Use your hands, baseball bats, Indian burns, I don't know, anything. Because the guns, they seem stupid. First of all, the bullets don't work. Second of all, you keep pulling them out and doing nothing. Then, while they're in the convenience store, there is a half wolf, half little girl. They don't explain how. Maybe she looked at the moon and then looked away. I don't know. Maybe she was in a toilet and looked up at the skylight and half changed. Maybe she saw the reflection of the moonlight through a mirror while she was plucking her nose hairs. They don't explain how she's a half wolf who half turned and half human. And she looks like the Grinch. Horrible makeup job there. And of course, finger not on the trigger, remember? She's a werewolf. She's gonna kill you. Well, half wolf, half Grinch who stole Christmas. I'm serious. I'm warning you. I'm warning you. I'm gonna do it. I'm serious. I'm really, really serious. And then that girl zaps her with a stun gun. And I'm like, whose idea was it with the guns? Did they just think it looked cool in the scene? So this happens 12 times. 12. And I counted 12 times in a row where they pull out the pew, refuse the pew, and then just go back to talking. They sit down and talk about what happened back in the day and how we got here. They talk about Aunt Edna's peach tea. They talk about, you know, buying St. Charles Place that time when they was playing Monopoly. Everything but concentrating on the fact that you're supposed to be going to a house where a defenseless little girl and your sister-in-law is being unalived by so many werewolves. And let me see, I can count. It's the neighbor and the one across the street. So we're in a billion werewolf apocalypse. If there's 2 on the street, and that is just too many, we've got to do something about that. The street we're on currently has 6, but she has 2. We got to get there. This is dangerous. There was 4 at the facility that broke out of their thin wire cages. Yeah, but there's 2 on the street. We got to get them, man. It's a werewolf apocalypse. So is this happening to anybody else? Because there's like 80 houses on the street. No. The werewolves don't want nobody else on the street, but just this woman and her child. I don't get it. Why? Because it's in the script. Yeah. Werewolves know the script. So, as they make it, as I was saying it, he gets the gun. Our guy Frank gets the gun, and he can shoot the werewolf that's right in front of Miss Spartacus here. And what do you think he does? Do you think he pulls the trigger and saves the day? No. He spouts a line. She could be ripped apart at any second and taken out, but he read the script, and he knows it doesn't happen then. So he gets the big pew-pew and says, "Hey! Bite me." Line of the century. I know, they're going to be talking about it at the MTV Movie Awards. Kids are going to be pouring slime on him at the Kids' Choice Awards. No, nobody cared about that whack-ass line right then and there. Did you forget you're in a werewolf apocalypse? There's a billion. Oh, I'm sorry. There's 15. 15 in your particular town, because it seems like the rest of the world, as you were explaining, is going through a werewolf apocalypse. You guys have 15, you know. And for some reason, the entire town's population shrunk down to 15 people, because there's just things that randomly pop up and happen and we have no idea. Like I was saying, they're in the hallway in the facility 1 minute, with a werewolf looking down the hallway at them. The next minute, they're in a car driving. How did they get out the facility? How did they get the keys to the car? Were there no werewolves in the garage? Were there any werewolves before they got to the car? We don't know, because they don't show us. I would like to believe there's a director's cut of this movie out there somewhere where the rest of these scenes are, but I don't think it is. I think whoever cut this movie to shit, it is what it is. So anyway, let's meet the mother. Okay, so this is the mother. This is the mother of the little girl. And she kind of got, you know, the red queen, red wedding thing going on from Game of Thrones. Alright, so lost in thought, there was a whole section where I spiraled out talking about the mom and the reactions and the director and the cinematographer and the scriptwriter. I went into this whole gigantic spiel. Unfortunately, you'll never see that because I wasn't recording. So that's sad. But on the same token, I'll summarize it really quick. Mother is strong when the script tells her to be strong, weak when a script tells her to be weak. 1 minute she's got the gun up and she's shooting holes all around the house in a bad Ellen Ripley moment. The next minute she's on her knees crying, screaming, with tears in her eyes. 1 minute she's rad and powerful and running around the house trying to put down the 3 werewolves in a billion werewolf movie. The next minute she's cursing her husband for dying. It's his fault. All the while, she's leaving her daughter on the couch, in the corner, on the floor, and around the corner, screaming, not for help, cheering her mom on. The girl never screams in fear, except for one time at the end, because they all read the script. So I'm going to take you to that one scene so you'll just get a glimpse of what I was talking about. Okay, you remember the scene I was talking about where verbatim I said they stole from Halloween and Michael Myers? The scene where Michael Myers does the one arm pull up and comes down behind the nurse. Check this shit out. Just watch this. Just check this shit out right here.
Hold your ears.
Yeah, that happened. They let it happen. You saw it happen. Yeah. Yeah. The one arm pull up scene from Halloween, Michael Myers. The wolf just did it. Very werewolf like. Now, I'm not going to say nothing. I just want you to watch this scene. This is how Mrs. Spartacus exits this movie. She's the main protagonist throughout 85% of this movie. And this was deserved. This was in a script. This was written and directed and pushed through production, post-production, pre-production, and they thought it was cool. Just watch.
Come on, come on!
Because you know what I do when I'm running from werewolves. I get to the car, I open the door, and then I stop and smile like it's an episode of Family Matters and they're putting my name in the credits. Because that's what you do when you're running for your life. From werewolves. 1 billion. Oh, excuse me. The 6 on the street. You run to the car. You open the door. And you smile. And then you're yanked away. Did anybody notice there wasn't one real moment in that entire equation? When you were filming it, when you were editing it, when you watched it, when you reviewed it, when you did test audiences, and that's where the problem is. They never do test audiences. Because why would she get to the car? She's running for her life. Werewolves, by the way. People are dying. Blood, slash, snarl. She opens the car door, and you just saw it. She opens the car door. She turns her head and smiles. She doesn't dive in the car. She doesn't show any immediacy for her life. She doesn't show any fear for her life, even though she's running from werewolves. I want to remind you that. She's running from werewolves. But she opens the car door. She smiles and turns her head like it's an episode of Family Matters before she's yanked away. Now, I know what you're saying. She comes back as a werewolf. They turn her. They show a scene where she's taken out. No, they do none of that. That is the last time you see her. Period. They did that with Lou Diamond Phillips. They did that with the fake Charisma Carpenter. They did that with 75% of the people in this movie. Not Frank, though. Frank is going to be there to the end. Good old Frank. And Frank, who for some reason, I don't even know why she came with him, because her husband was a werewolf at the factory. And for some reason, she decided to tag along with Frank to help his sister and niece. I don't know what the motivation was at all. But anyway, she's gone. And I know what you're saying. That is pretty weird. Those weird moments like you just saw happen in this movie a lot. Just like weird scenes where you're just like, I don't think, that should be cut out. That shouldn't have been in the movie. And then the movie comes down to the end where, now remember, every werewolf you've seen in this entire movie, and there are 15. I know you're saying there's an apocalypse of 1 billion. It's happening all over the world. We got 15. That's what was in the budget. 15. At the end of this movie, Frank decides the only way to beat a wolf is to become one. And he looks at the moonlight and changes into a wolf to take out, the crazy neighbor that was shooting earlier. And it would be an awesome scene if you had established at any point, any time in the movie, that some semblance or resemblance of a human being remains when they're in a total werewolf form. Because the entire movie, they don't attack each other. They don't fight each other. They work as packs and rip apart the city. Well, the 4 scenes that we see in the city, because we don't see nothing else. There's no police stations. There's no Sal's Pizza. We don't. There's nothing else. It's just these 4 environments. But I digress. Now, when he turns into a werewolf, because, he's the star of the movie, he remembers he wants to protect and take down this werewolf that's trying to kill his family. That is what Frank does. And Frank does it. He fights this werewolf and then commits a Mortal Kombat fatality. He commits a Sub-Zero. And see, that's what I'm really talking about, because most of this movie is rated G and PG-13, where they show nothing, they turn away from nothing, you hear people yell, you see blood, but they don't show anything. But then certain random moments, you're ripping open a back, you're taking a head off somebody's shoulders with the spinal cord attached. It's the Sub-Zero fatality from Mortal Kombat 1. It is. The original Mortal Kombat, not the new one. The original Mortal Kombat 1. What we thought was Mortal Kombat 1 until they came out with Mortal Kombat 11, and the new one should have been 12, and it became 1. That's a whole different story. Anyway, he turns into a werewolf, remembers he wants to protect them, and attacks this guy and finish him, and Sub-Zero's the wolf's head off the body, because for all we know with werewolves, there's only one way to kill them, silver bullet. But I guess this movie went a different way. So anyway, after Frank, who's in so much control, protects his family, he decides he's going to eat him. I know you're saying, like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, because it's in the script. This man who controlled himself when he turned into a werewolf to protect his family now wants to eat them. And they expect you to eat it up and buy it because it's in the script. It doesn't make sense. Of course it doesn't. So before he went outside and wolfed out, he gave her the gun and his watch and said it's 15 minutes until sunrise. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen a sunrise, in my couple of decades of life. I've seen a sunrise, a couple of decades, maybe a couple of 1,000 times. And I know if it's 15 minutes till the sun is up, it's daylight outside. In this movie, 15 minutes till daylight means it's still pitch black with the moon above in the head, and it's midnight until the script calls for it to be daylight. Once again, things that drive me crazy, unrealistic reactions, and no realism in your movie. You can't have it both ways. If you're writing this movie from a point of being a realistic werewolf attack, then have some realism in it. So Frank, who wolfed out and had the power to protect his family because he had the control, now wants to eat his family, and he goes into the house. And the woman who he told, no matter what, don't hesitate to pull the trigger, now with the pew-pew, because remember I told you it keeps happening in this movie, everybody pulls out the gun, finger on the outside, never in the trigger, finger on the outside, and she drops the gun. Because there's a billion guns in this movie, and only 2 of them are used. I don't get it. Everybody who pulls out a gun, they never use it. So she puts the gun down and picks up a picture of her and her family and starts talking to him to channel his inner frankness. Because that's what you do with a werewolf that just Sub-Zeroed somebody's head off. You talk to him. You offer him tea. You sit down and explain to him he's going to be canceled on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. This is the wokeness that I was talking about. There is no way in hell that you're going to stand in front of a 12-foot werewolf that punched its way through your house, shredded everything in its wake, just Sub-Zero somebody's head off that you watched, and you're going to put your gun down while your daughter is hiding in a closet. You left her alone again for the umpteenth time. You're going to leave her defenseless in a closet by herself because there's no end game for you. And you're going to talk to the werewolf. You're going to reason with him. You're going to bring him back to his sanity. You're going to make him remember he's a good person. This is not a joke. This is the actual traffic in this movie. This actually happens. So, of course, when the script calls for sunlight, because right now in this scene, you can see the moonlight peeking through the windows. You can see the moonlight peeking through the holes that she shot. There's a little clip where you see the moon above with pitch black sky and clouds. The alarm beeps on her hand, and she takes the one shot instead of shooting Frank and shoots the window where the sunlight comes through. And it's a full day of sunshine. It's 12 noon. It's not like the sun is just rising and it's peeking over the horizon. No, it's 12 noon. The sun is way up high in the sky in the space of 30 seconds. From complete darkness and midnight and moonlight to sunshine high in the sky, in the middle of the sky. And of course, Frank turns back and you hear the soft music and everything is okay. And the little girl runs out the closet to hug Frank and tell him how much she's missed him. And you're like, but I have so many questions. Credits. Ball, 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 ding, 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 ding. That's right. That's it. That's the end. That's the end. No end credit scene. No answers. No Lou Diamond Phillips. Whew. Oh my God. That was bad. We got to come up with something for next year. This is horrible. Maybe we should think about, I don't know, steel and cement cells. No. No more, no Lou Diamond Phillips. No look over the town. No panning of everybody standing up butt naked in the middle of town like, oh my God, I shredded Wolfie. I ate my dog. Dude, you ate the babysitter. Nothing. Now, I know what you're saying. Maybe this movie had moments of comedy and levity because it wanted to be a dark comedy horror. No comedy. This was intended to be real horror. And that's the scary part. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Werewolves came out in December. It's already on stream. I haven't done a review in 2 months, and it's sad that this is my first review. But I'm going to tell you outright with 100%. This is absolute dog shit. And everything wrong with modern movie making. The premise, brilliant. The idea, brilliant. The execution, nah. I've seen better episodes of TV shows that are horror based. And that says a lot. I expected more from a Varsity Letterman. But by the end of this movie, I hated all the characters. I hated their reactions. I hated their actions. I hated how they handled situations. I literally hated everything. I was looking for one redeeming characteristic that I could have in this movie, and the only redeeming characteristic I had in this movie is they had 3 pretty girls in it. One who looked like Charisma Carpenter, the other one who was from Spartacus, and then they had this other random girl who was just there in the lab for 5 minutes before she was murdered. The rest of the movie is close-up shots of Frank and Mrs. Spartacus every 5 seconds, where they're pulling out a gun with their finger open. Remember, not in the trigger. They're in a safe position. And I understand why. Don't get me wrong. I understand why. But on the same token, don't focus the camera on it. They're fighting werewolves. Who would not be ready to take out a werewolf? And that's the crazy part. It happens so many times. Every time they pull out their gun, they never use it. Frank uses one gun one time, and it ain't even the gun he had the entire movie. It was the one on the back of the truck where he spouts the stupid line, "Bite me." And why would you pause to say a line? Because you know you're in a movie. That's why. Because in real life, you would save the girl. You wouldn't pause to say a line. And you would think it would be comedy, but it's not. It's not even levity. So what do we give Werewolves here on 24K Movies, Games, TV shows, Reviews? Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to go ahead and take platinum and double platinum right off the table. We're going to go ahead and take gold right off the table. Going to go ahead and take silver right off the table. Going ahead and take copper right off the table. We're going to go ahead and take melty, filthy, old rust metal off the table. This is probably, if I could think of a metal to call this and coin this, I would say this is a rusty, broken, falling apart car bumper from 1967 sitting in a junkyard for 57 years. You know, the kind of rust where you just blow and the bumper falls apart? This would be just below that. Yeah. I would love to recommend this movie. I would love to recommend you see it. And matter of fact, because it sucks so bad, some movies are actually great. Mosquito sucks so bad, I had to recommend it. He's Mosquito. Solo. Somebody who was embodied with all the powers of Bruce Lee and Michael Jordan. So bad, it was good. Geely, it sucked. But Geely at least was better than this. And that says a lot. Watch this movie if you have time. If there's a director's cut, I would love to redo it. Like I did Rebel Moon. I changed my position on Rebel Moon when I saw the director's cut. Totally different movie. If there is another version of this movie, I would love to be proven wrong. But if there's not, and this is the finished product, Werewolves is just that, dog shit. It's 100% grade A, pure dog shit. And that says a lot from a movie that had the guts to use a real beast werewolf and not a big dog for the first time in years. And I don't know how we got to this point. When I heard about this, I was excited. When I went into it, I was excited. The first 15 to 20 minutes had me excited, all the way until the shit hit the fan. And then the movie fell apart. And it got worse and worse and worse. I walked away and put on my socks, changed my shirt, sat down and had something to drink, laid back on the ground. You know, this movie is frustratingly horrible. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're back and we're doing movie reviews. Stay tuned to see the latest movie reviews, TV show reviews, because we got a lot coming out for you. Sorry we were gone, but we're back. Here's the thing, we started out friends. It was cool until it all began. Yay, yay. The werewolves are gone. I'll see you guys later.